You're a vampire in 18th century Romania, particularly Transylvania, the birthplace of the vampire we're all familiar with. You may be imagining yourself as a brooding man with flowing dark hair and deep red eyes, sitting in an eerie manor on a mountaintop somewhere, with your thralls and servants attending to all of your needs. And that kind of vampire life would actually be relatively nice. One of the few downsides would be your inability to consume anything besides blood, and of course, dying if you came into contact with the sun. But you can get used to both of these things and live lavishly for centuries, with your eternal beauty and youth. Even so, things may get problematic. You're living in your massive castle, practically overshadowing the nearby land. Something like that is bound to be noticed by other villagers, perhaps even the local lord. You need to make sure that you have enough thralls to fight back against potential raids. Of course, peasants armed with torches and pitchforks will be easy to deal with. You won't even have to leave your bedroom, or coffin room. Your thralls should be capable of dealing with them. If that plan falls through, your incredible strength and durability will tear through the lucky few that made it past your servants. But when news of these events inevitably spreads to local lords and nobility, you'll need to deal with their armies. A soldier in plate armor will have little to no trouble mowing down hordes of your undead servants. Granted, they're still unlikely to do any real damage to you. But you might need to prepare yourself for a month or two of those humans sieging your castle. Eventually, they're bound to realize exactly what you are, and you'll find more and more soldiers with protective charms made of garlic around their necks, which will prevent you from feeding on them to regain your power. If the siege lasts long enough, there's a real chance you may run out of energy and have a stake driven through your heart. If you manage to avoid sparking the rage of your neighbors, you're in for a pretty comfortable eternal life. Another issue comes with this, though. Living forever sounds nice, at first. But after the centuries wear on, the weight of your immortality weighs heavy on you. You watch civilizations rise and fall, but you remain unchanging. The land you once knew has been reshaped, and even if you manage to stay hidden, you're always aware of just how lonely you've become. At some point, you'll read all the books that you can read, write all the ones that haven't been written, and explored all the fine arts available to you. But your life will drag on, forever the same. And then there's the loneliness. Sure, you may have thralls and servants, but those relationships are hollow. You can never fully connect with them the way you did as a human. In time, the people you keep around you begin to decay in their own way. Their lives are short, fleeting, and soon, you're left watching as they die off, only to be replaced by the next group of eager souls. Your immortal existence becomes a cycle of isolation. No matter how many people you surround yourself with, you are the only constant in a world of change. You may even come to resent your immortal beauty and youth. They may prevent you from ever growing old and dying, but they also isolate you from the people you encounter. You can never truly fit in because your beauty remains eternal, a constant reminder that you're not human. The world sees you as something different, something foreign and forever out of place. But things can get even more bleak for you. The rich, handsome, aristocratic vampire was introduced in later years through fiction, but the vampires of folklore were very different. You see, actual vampires were more akin to grave robbers, evil spirits of petty criminals, but with a darker, magical twist to it. Romanian vampires were known as strigoi, witches with two hearts or souls, sometimes both. The top of their head is always bald, and they have elongated spines stretching down to form a tail with hair growing on it. They have the ability to send out their souls at night to meet with other strigoi and consume the blood of livestock and neighbors. They were also described as reanimated corpses that sucked blood and attacked their living family. You don't even have to be born as a vampire to be one. It's possible to become one as a human. For example, being born with a tail would mean you're doomed to become a vampire. The same fate applied to the seventh child, if all of their siblings were the same gender, as well as someone whose pregnant mother had a black cat cross the road in front of them. The vampiric mass hysteria was really getting out of hand in these times, so anything even remotely strange about you would have people pointing fingers and making accusations, which is bad enough for regular people, but you're already a vampire. Alright, back to you now. It's the middle of the night, and you're feeding on livestock around the countryside, when you're spotted by a sleepless and very paranoid farmer. You've had plenty to drink tonight, so you decide to back off and leave him to his own devices. That's where the problems start. Since vampires usually roam about during the night, people use daytime to find them before it's too late. A common way to identify a vampire was to place a 7-year-old boy dressed in white on a white horse near the graveyard at midday. It was believed that the horse would stop at the grave of the suspected vampire. To kill them, the grave of the supposed Strigoi is searched, a prayer is read to them, and a branch is struck in their heart. The branch is pierced with a nail or a knife, which binds the vampire and prevents them from going out during the night. It's fair to assume that you'll keep waking up each night, but you'll be forced to stare into the lid of your coffin until day comes. If you manage to avoid having your grave discovered, you might find garlic wrapped around fences or doors, which is meant to ward off vampires. People believed this would work because garlic was used for preserving foods, meaning it wards off decay, and you're very much decayed. Interestingly enough, the compounds in garlic are capable of killing mosquitoes, which are vampiric insects. At that point, there's not much left for you to do. You may find yourself waking up every night and desperately searching for unprotected animal pens or homes, perhaps even pay a visit to your past family. But the paranoid people will discover your grave eventually, and you'll be trapped in your coffin with a nail driven into your heart. You may be immortal, but you're not invincible. One unlucky encounter with a human and the life you know could be over. In other words, the longer you exist, the more likely you are to make a mistake, and you're not likely to get a second chance. On the bright side, a real vampire like you doesn't actually have a weakness to sunlight, pun intended. In fact, it doesn't affect you at all. You just happen to sleep during the day and wake up at night. But then there's the issue of being stuck in a constant cycle of death and rebirth. According to some legends, killing a vampire isn't always the end. In certain cases, you might just end up being reborn as another creature of the night. Instead of a Strigoi, you could come back as a Moroi, a weaker, ghost-like vampire that feeds off the energy of the living. We're left with two possible paths for you to walk on: a lifetime of solitude, where you're doomed to eventually end up alone no matter what you do, and a life akin to a beast, searching the land for food and hoping that you're not discovered and banished by the people. It's fair to say that being a vampire sucks.